Hey up everybody and welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today I'm going to be telling you who to put onto your Donostia San Sebastian team. So Alaphilippe is the most expensive rider, which is understandable considering how dangerous he is usually in every single one-day race. I think you're going to have seen a lot of people putting Alaphilippe on their team, so I'd probably recommend you do the same, because let's face it, yeah, he might not do well just for some random reason, but it's probably going to do well. So I'd probably recommend putting him on. Ulissi, these are just some preliminary riders just to get us through this, but you got Ulissi who's done well recently in this Italian stage race called the Superclasico Italiana, something like that. And a real punchy rider. I think his team's strong enough where over the final climb they even could have enough people to bring it back for somewhat of a reduced bunch sprint if somebody has attacked earlier. Somebody like Bauke Mollema who might attack earlier. I think Mollema looked really good in the Olympic road race. And he didn't do the time trial, so he won't be tired from that. And I think that he's probably the strongest guy that Trek Segafredo have, and he's got a very good reputation in this race. He's won it. He's finished on the podium another 2 times. I think last time he finished 4th. He's just a very consistent rider in this race. Knows how to do that post-tour kind of racing. You've got these 22 pointers, Trentin and Simon Yates. I'm not overly keen on these two. I'm not keen on Bauke, Dan Martin maybe, but overall these high pointers I'm liking Alaphilippe and Ulissi only, just because the course doesn't suit Trentin. Yates will have to win kind of like how Adam Yates won back in 2016, 2015, whenever it was. Bauke's probably just not going to win from any scenario. 18 pointers, the best ones are probably Mollema, Ciccone, Gorka and Kelderman. Lopez and Stybar I wouldn't recommend, just because Lopez hasn't looked great this season and Stybar will be helping Alaphilippe and building towards the Vuelta later on. 16 pointers probably go with Patrick Conrad. However, Landa's a bit of an unknown just because we haven't seen him since the Giro. Herman's maybe, and Brambilla again part of that really strong Trek Segafredo team. Any one of them could win, but I just think that Mollema's the most likely to. The only problem with Conrad is that because he did the Olympic road race and the time trial, we saw from even like Wout van Aert, he didn't perform well in that time trial, so more than likely he will be tired, so he just might not perform overly well, especially considering this race is very difficult and it's almost 230 kilometres. Somebody who has to deal with those kind of distances is Luis Leon Sanchez, who recently won a Spanish one-day race ahead of Juan Ayuso, who we'll get on to later on. But yeah, Sanchez looked really lean. I think he's definitely looking strong now. Could he make it over that last climb? It'll be quite touch and go, but I definitely feel like he could. He'd more than likely be winning from like a reduced bunch sprint, but he's also got the capabilities of going solo. And I think the whole team seems fairly built around him and Gorka as a gear, so I think that he's probably quite a good shout to go with. Mattia Catania, after finishing 12th in GC at the Tour de France, of course we saw in the road race at the Olympics, all the people who did well were pretty much coming from the Tour de France. So Catania, after we haven't seen him since the Tour, will more than likely have quite a lot of form and could be a big surprise winner, perhaps if people look at Alaphilippe too much and Catania attacks off the front. I mean, he's also got the time trialing capability of holding off the likes of UAE or Astana in the chase in the last few kilometres. In terms of other 12 pointers who I like, perhaps Antoine Tolhoek could be another one, Mikkel Frolic-Honore, but I'd say that Catania is probably your best one. You've also got the 10 pointers and 8 pointers I'm not a massive fan of. Nick Schultz probably the best one. Diego Rosa maybe. I don't really like many of the 8 pointers. You like the Distor Domestiques and guys who I'm not really too sure about their form. 6 pointers, you've got the fantastic option of Jonas Vingegaard, who finished 2nd at the Tour de France. A lot of people will be picking him, considering he's 6 points. You're probably never going to see that again. Another 6-pointer who we've seen doing well recently, perhaps Elan van Wilde. We saw him doing okay at the start of the Dauphiné, and then he kind of tailed off a bit. And we also saw Mark Padun killing it at the end of the Dauphiné. Didn't do great in that race which Alessi was doing, but I definitely think he's got the capabilities of doing well here. So, let's get on to the low pointers, because you've got some really good 4-pointers in this race. I'm expecting a lot of people to be picking Juan Ayuso, just because of the hype that he brings. Yes, it says he's riding for Team Kolpak Balan, but he is actually riding for UAE Team Emirates. There are 2 of them, and I'll probably just pick the top one. I'm sure George will figure that all out. You've also got Carlos Rodriguez at the INEOS Grenadiers, who's probably actually their best shout, considering they're not bringing an overly strong team. No Kwiatkowski coming this year. You've also got the Lotto Soudal talented riders, Zandros Vavlosum, Victor Vashev, Maxime Van Gils and Harry Sweeney. I'd say that Maxime Van Gils is probably the best shot out of all those, just because he finished 7th in GC at the Tour of Wallonie recently, which Quinn Simmons won. Other than that, you've also got Giovanni Aliotti, who finished 3rd behind Alessi in that race. Looking really strong, actually fairly fast from reduced sprints. And if you've got Kelderman and Conrad, who perhaps might be tired from the Tour and then the Olympics, Aliotti could be a very surprising contestant, perhaps, to get inside the top 10. If I'm going to be saying which 4-pointer to go with, I'd probably say Aliotti. I know that Juan Ayuso has the big hype around him, but he's never really done well in a race past 170 kilometres. This race is 230. I'd say that it's a bit of a long shot to say that an 18-year-old's going to win this race. Yes, I know that Evenepoel won it, but even he was like 21 at the time. So I'd say that perhaps Juan Ayuso might be a bit of a stretch to go with. In terms of people who I'm going to probably put on my team, I'm thinking these top 3 almost certainly. Catania I quite like as a bit of a long shot winner. And then I've got 8 points spare here, so I could put all those onto Padun, and I could get myself Luis Leon Sanchez, like I said earlier. This would be a really strong team. I think you've definitely got a capability of winning here. You've got a lot of the favourites. Alaphilippe, Alessi, Mollema probably all up there in the favourites for the bookies. Alternatively, if you just didn't like any one of these riders, you could take any of them off. I'm expecting a lot of people will be wanting to put Vingegaard on, which is understandable. So you could literally take off Catania and put Vingegaard on. I won't say don't be too worried about if you're not hitting the cost of 100. This might be one of the few times where I'm going to make a team and it's not going to cost 100 credits. I don't think it's a massive deal this time round, especially if you like the team that you've built, then like that's fair enough. Don't go forcing, I've got 6 points left, therefore I need to upgrade Sanchez to get Dan Martin or something like that. If you don't feel like Dan Martin's going to do as well as Luis Leon Sanchez, then don't put on Dan Martin. You don't have to. We've seen that some of the top scoring teams, if you look at Velogames tweets, some of the top scoring teams aren't actually 100 points, they're actually like 98, 96. So there's no reason why a high scoring team has to be 100. It could be lower. Anyway, I think that's about it really. I've pretty much gone through a lot of the riders there. I'd say definitely Alaphilippe, definitely Mollema, and then the others are up to you. And hopefully this was useful. I gave you some nice low point tips as well. Of course, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below, or hit me up on Twitter at Paddy Blake with an extra E. But that's about it. I'll probably see you next time at the Tour of Poland. I think that's going to be the next competition. But of course, keep your masks on, stay safe, and I will talk to you next time. Salut.